Leaving the postpartum care center, Alden Jason quickly drove me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. The moment we received the divorce certificate, a look of joy I hadn't seen in a long time appeared on his face. He leaned down to look at me and said he needed to go home to pack his bags and move out. I calmly and gently replied, "All right, that's fine." Alden Jason stared at me and said, "You don't seem like yourself anymore." I tilted my head, looking at him, and gave a bright smile. "What's different?" He was silent for a moment, then said, "I thought you'd cry and make a scene, beg me not to leave, or use the baby to plead for me to stay." I just smiled faintly and replied, "Hurry home and pack up. Selina will probably be flying back tonight. Don't be late." It was already late afternoon when I got home. The baby was sleeping soundly in the arms of the nanny. Alden Jason looked at his son, somewhat lost in thought, and asked casually, "Have you named him yet?" I found his feigned concern amusing. His heart was clearly at the airport, so why bother playing the role of the good father? I remained composed and answered, "His name is Nolan Leon, hoping he will be single-minded and devoted." Alden Jason frowned in displeasure. "This is the child of the Jason family." I smiled. "The Jason family? The divorce agreement clearly states that I have custody, but you are the child's father after all. I won't stop you if you want to see him in the future." Alden Jason sighed softly, and a hint of guilt finally appeared on his face. "Thank you, Xavier. I will send enough child support payments in the future, without fail." I firmly refused. "No need. I am perfectly capable of raising my child. You worry about living your own happy life." He looked down at his phone and said, "Well, goodbye." I nodded. "Yes, goodbye." As I spoke, I waved goodbye to him and gently closed the door. Good. I'm finally free of him. After Alden Jason left, I immediately blocked all means of contact with him. Next, I quickly put all 3 houses registered under my name up for sale, all priced 5% below market value. Soon, all 3 houses were sold. I used the money from selling 2 houses to fully pay for 1 apartment in a good school district. The rest I deposited into a bank for interest, keeping a small amount of cash to prepare for a fresh start. Life went on like this until a strange number called me. "Is this Xavier? I'm Selina." Selina? Why was she calling me? I calmly spoke. "Yes, it's me. What is it?" Her voice sounded panicked. "Alden had a car accident. I don't share his blood type. Could you come and donate blood?" Are you kidding me? Alden Jason and I had been divorced for nearly half a year. I heard that just 2 days after the divorce, he took Selina to register their marriage. Now he needs blood? And he remembers me? Do they think I'm that cheap? I replied coldly, "I'm sorry, Selina. Alden Jason and I are no longer connected. You've called the wrong person." The other end sounded choked up. "But I just returned to the country. I don't know anyone else. I only know you. Please, save him." Just returned to the country and only knows me? This Selina really has a nerve. I replied, "Selina, perhaps you don't understand the current medical conditions because you've been abroad for a long time. To my knowledge, Alden Jason's blood type is not rare. It must be available in the blood bank. Right now, you should be looking for a doctor, not calling me." With that, I immediately hung up. I met Alden Jason through a blind date. I was 26 then, and my family was pressuring me to get married. Former the people I met, Alden Jason was the most outstanding. He was reserved, tall, graduated with a master's degree from a prestigious school, and his manners were polite and gentle. I once asked, "How many times have you been in love?" He seemed embarrassed, lowered his head, and chuckled softly. "Actually, this is my first relationship." After that, Alden Jason pursued me passionately. He didn't completely lie to me. He just didn't tell the whole truth. In his heart, there was a white moonlight from start to finish. After getting married, Alden Jason and I started an entertainment company together. From nothing, we built our name step by step, and a few young artists signed by the company started to become famous. When registering the company, I asked, "What should we name the company?" He replied almost without thinking. Let's call it Cecilia Media. It wasn't until 3 years after we got married that I learned the true meaning of that name. That day, he was dead drunk. The driver had to carry him upstairs. It was the first time in 3 years of marriage that I saw him drink so heavily. In his stupor, he mumbled, "Selina, I miss you so much." Selina? Who was Selina? I imagined every possibility and prepared myself for the worst. Throughout the night, he vomited several times, and I quietly took care of him, never leaving his side. The next morning, as soon as he opened his eyes, Alden Jason saw me slumped next to the bed. He gently stroked my cheek, his eyes showing a hint of sorrow. "You've worked so hard, wife." I just smiled softly, then spoke calmly. "Last night, I heard you kept calling the name Selina. Who is Selina?" Alden Jason was surprised that I asked so directly. He immediately sat up on the bed. After a long silence, he slowly opened his mouth. "Selina and I don't have the kind of relationship you think." I asked, "Then what kind of relationship is it?" He lit a cigarette. His gaze was distant. "She and I grew up together. She went abroad a few years ago. But rest assured, we truly had nothing romantic before." A sense of disappointment crept from the top of my head to my heels. I looked at the man who had shared my bed for over 3 years and felt utterly distant. I laughed coldly and asked, "Then those annual business trips to England were also to see her, right?" Alden Jason lowered his head in silence. From that day on, he and I were like two strangers living under the same roof. But fate truly loves to play tricks. 2 months later, during a routine health check, I discovered I was pregnant. For the sake of the baby, I wanted to give him a chance, as I didn't want my child to be born without a father. When the pregnancy was 4 months along, I brought the ultrasound results to him. Seeing them, Alden Jason was overjoyed. "Why didn't you tell me about something this big sooner?" I countered, "Did you care?" He lifted me up, excitedly replying, "Of course. You and the baby are the most important people in my life." I looked at the man in front of me, thinking he might not be a good husband, but perhaps he would be a decent father. But the greater the hope, the deeper the disappointment. Alden Jason paid for me to go to the city's most luxurious private hospital. As the due date approached, I had to stay in bed more, and he appeared less frequently. The reason was always the same. "Since you're not at the company, I have to handle everything. I'm very busy. I'll come visit you when I have time." On the day I gave birth, I had a difficult labor and was in the operating room for over 10 hours. But throughout that time, Alden Jason did not appear at all. After giving birth, I lay motionless on the bed, exhausted. His female assistant was next to me and said, "You worked hard. Congratulations." I forced a smile. "Where is CEO Alden?" The assistant scratched her head, embarrassed. "He said he had an important client arriving today and had to go to the airport to pick them up. He'll come visit you after work." I knew all the company's major clients. I looked up and asked, "What client is more important than his wife giving birth?" The young girl stammered. "Specifically, the CEO didn't say. You just gave birth and you're still weak. Please rest first." Looking at her young, likely fresh out of school face, I didn't want to make it harder for her, and nodded. It wasn't until the 3rd day after giving birth that Alden Jason finally appeared, holding a large bouquet of flowers. He placed it in front of me and said, "Wife, you've worked hard." He kissed my forehead, then turned to look at our son next to me. "Our son looks just like me." Looking at him, I only felt utterly disgusted. All the suppressed emotions finally erupted. Tears poured out uncontrollably, dripping onto the blanket, which startled Alden Jason. I sobbed and scolded. "Alden Jason, where have you been these past few days? Do you know I was in the delivery room for over 10 hours, almost dying on the operating table? You said the baby and I were the most important people, so why weren't you here?" I cried and spoke. choking until I couldn't utter another word. I wanted to perform for Alden Jason because only then would he feel more guilty. I was already very weak, and I cried until my face was pale, saying, "Alden, I can't stop you from loving someone else. If I'm a redundant person, I can stop being your wife. But when I needed you most, could you not spare a little affection for me and our child? Just a little." Alden Jason frowned. His face was serious. "I'm sorry, Xavier. I failed you." I turned my head, wiped my tears, and forced a smile. "Don't apologize. You are my husband, the baby's father, and the man I love most." That sentence made me feel nauseous, but Alden Jason was moved. From that day on, he started visiting me and our son more often. But every time he came, I cried. Crying about the hardships I went through, crying about how I helped him build the company from scratch, and crying that I still loved him so much. I knew that with his personality, hearing it often would make him feel annoyed and make him remember the gentle light of his first love more. That was the stepping stone for him to actively suggest a divorce. And by tormenting him with words, when he finally proposed the breakup, he would feel more guilty and thus offer me more compensation. What Alden Jason didn't know was that I knew every time he met his first love over the past few months. Since learning about Selina's existence, I had secretly hired a private investigator to follow him. Every time her plane landed, I knew the exact moment. After 40 consecutive days of living in tears, Alden Jason finally snapped. He shouted, "Xavier, you're too annoying. Repeating the same things every day. Aren't you tired? I'm exhausted. Why didn't I realize you were this kind of clingy woman before? Look at this entire hospital. Is anyone as talkative and disruptive as you? You're acting like a lunatic." I tried to suppress the anger in my heart and asked calmly, "So what do you want?" Alden Jason was silent for a long time, then spoke. "Let's get a divorce. I'll bring the papers tomorrow." With that, he turned and strode out of the hospital room. Alden Jason didn't know that I had long been determined to divorce him, because I knew he didn't have much longer to live. I collected my thoughts, pondering the real reason why Selina called me. She could clearly ask a doctor to handle the blood transfusion, so why call me? We hadn't been in contact for half a year, minding our own business. Why would she actively seek me out now? I applied my makeup carefully, dressed neatly, and called Alden Jason's young assistant. "I heard CEO Alden had an accident. How is the situation? Which hospital is he at?" The assistant seemed surprised by my concern. She hesitated before replying. "He's at hospital number 3. Are you planning to visit?" I sighed and said, "Yes. Selina just called me, asking me to donate blood. I thought I might as well do a good deed. After all, we were married once. Some goodwill remains." Hearing me say that, the other end sounded relieved. "Yes, CEO Alden is in room 302. Do you need me to inform him beforehand?" I replied, "No need." I wanted to see what kind of game Selina was playing. Entering room 302, only Alden Jason was lying quietly on the hospital bed. His head was wrapped in white bandages, but I saw no other serious injuries. He was looking out the window, completely oblivious to my presence. I gently knocked on the inner door. Alden Jason turned his head, and when he saw me, he froze and asked, "Xavier? Why are you here?" I smiled gently and replied, "Selina called me just now, saying you had an accident and needed a blood transfusion, so I came to see how you were." A flicker of light appeared in his usually dim eyes, but quickly faded. He said, "Thank you for your concern. I'm fine." I looked around and asked, "Selina doesn't seem to be here?" He replied casually, "She probably went out to pay the hospital bill." I smiled. "Since you're fine, I'll leave now." I turned to walk away. His voice rang out from behind me again. "Where did you move to? I couldn't find you." I turned back, smiling. "Why are you looking for me?" His gaze slightly avoided mine. The moment he met my eyes, he quickly looked elsewhere. "I want to visit my son." Previously, I told him he could see his son to make him feel guilty and to make him leave faster. Now he actually thought I was serious about meeting his son? I didn't reply. Leaving the hospital room, I encountered Selina standing at the door. I didn't know how much she had heard. This was the first time I faced her directly. She looked even more fragile and gentle than in pictures, her facial features very delicate, even bearing a slight resemblance to me. No, in Alden Jason's eyes, it's probably me who resembles her. I had no interest in getting entangled and was about to turn and leave, but Selina called out softly, "Sister Xavier, is that really you?" I looked at her frail, clear-as-water appearance and instinctively understood why Alden Jason couldn't forget her. Seeing my silence, she spoke again. "I really didn't expect you to come. Thank you so much. I just came back to the country and am completely unfamiliar with everything. I was truly panicked then, which is why I called you. I hope I didn't bother you." I didn't want to play games with her and said indifferently, "I'm glad he's fine. I'm leaving now." But Selina quickly stepped in front of me, blocking my way. "Actually, there's something I wanted to talk to you about. Can you spare a few minutes?" I knew it. Her calling me here was definitely not simple. I asked, "What is it? Just say it." I curved my lips into a smile that wasn't really a smile. She said awkwardly, "When you divorced, Alden left all the assets to you, right? But the company is facing difficulties now. You know, he definitely feels awkward bringing it up with you." I wanted to ask, on his behalf, could you help? Cecilia is both your life's work, after all. I looked at Selina's outwardly benevolent face and couldn't help but laugh. So, she was after my assets. Alden Jason had left all the real estate to me, only keeping the company. To him, the company was the goose that laid the golden eggs, worth far more than the houses. Previously, he and I divided the work clearly. He handled content, copyright, and film distribution, while I managed the artist business and company finances. Because he didn't understand, Alden Jason didn't know that maintaining the company's operations required a huge amount of working capital. Losing that flexible cash flow meant the company was like a river whose source had been cut off. It couldn't sustain itself for long. With business declining, Alden Jason was naturally unable to bear Selina's large expenses, which began to make her dissatisfied. I looked at Selina standing in front of me, her tone humble, but her face unable to hide her ambition. I used the exact same pitiful tone to reply. "You know, I built that company together with Alden Jason. Today, I left the entire large company to the two of you. What more do you want from me?" Seeing my distressed expression, Selina lowered her voice even further. "Sister Xavier, when you divorced, Alden left you the houses, the car, and 20 or 30 million in cash. We don't need much. We just need you to help with 1 million. You can keep the rest to raise your child." I looked at Selina and wondered where she got the audacity to say those words without batting an eye. I sighed. "Selina, when we planned to list the company, it was valued at 200 to 300 million. How much was I actually given? It was nothing compared to the company. I know you studied musical theater abroad. Alden Jason told me. He founded this company to help you fulfill your acting dream, which is why I didn't fight for it and was willing to let go, leaving Cecilia for the two of you." Hearing me, Selina cautiously said, "But you know, running a business requires money everywhere. Since he is the child's father, helping him is perfectly reasonable." As she spoke, she pulled a piece of paper from her pocket. "This is the account number. You can just transfer the money here." Selina was quick with her calculations. Even the account number was ready. But whether this money was to sustain the company or for her personal spending, only she knew best. I looked at Selina and sighed continuously. "I want to help. I really do. But unfortunately, it's not the right time. All my money has been tied up in entrusted investments. I don't have much cash left. I have about $350,000 in hand. If you two are in a rush, I can lend you that. No need to pay it back immediately. Selina's eyes widened like two bells. You, stop joking. I smiled gently. I'm not joking. I genuinely can't help. Just like today, you called me to donate blood, and I came right away. If I could help, I would never refuse. Seeing that I was unyielding, Selina finally changed her expression. She scoffed coldly and said, Xavier, stop acting. If you don't want to give, just say so. Why pretend? True colors can't be hidden for long. Her foxtail showed quickly. I lowered my head, took out a business card from my purse, and said, This is the information for an investment organization. They provided capital for Cecilia when we first started the company. You can try contacting them. Selina's eyes flickered. She took the business card and asked, Do you really want to help us? I smiled. Of course. I don't hold any grudges against you. I believe everyone has the right to pursue happiness. Alden Jason loves you. My letting go is good for all three of us, wouldn't you agree? Oh, I see Alden Jason doesn't look very well. It would be best to take him for a full checkup. With that, I turned and left the hospital. Outside the gate, I immediately tossed the paper with Selina's account number into the trash can. Then, I took out an alcohol wipe and thoroughly cleaned my hands. She asked if I resented her? Ridiculous. What was there to resent? The person she treasured was merely a dying man. Who would bother fighting for that? My son grew steadily. Thanks to my mother and the nanny's help, I also began to have time to rebuild my career. Lately, a few artists I used to manage messaged me to complain. Everyone was lamenting the state of Cecilia. That new Selina girl who studied musical theater abroad reportedly knows nothing about management, and the CEO listens to her every word. The company is running out of capital. Everything is lacking. You know, we have to kiss up to others even for the latest variety show we're on. One investor was going to inject capital, but the deal fell through after a few rounds of negotiations with Selina. If this continues, we're doomed. I just lost an endorsement deal. That's the second one canceled. Checking the time, these artists were nearing the end of their 5-year contracts with the company. I asked half-jokingly, if I start a new company, will you guys follow? Everyone replied in unison, Yes, sis, we'll follow you immediately. We've been waiting for this day for a long time. I lowered my head and smiled. These young people were at the peak of their careers. Staying at Cecilia was equivalent to destroying their future. This time, I personally named the new company Solid Media, meaningful and reflecting my determination. A few artists were preparing to finalize their contracts. The artists successively terminated their contracts with Cecilia and simultaneously posted farewell messages on social media, quickly rising to the top of the hot searches. I was at the newly rented office, reviewing the artist's commercial contracts, when my phone suddenly rang. It was an unknown number, but I knew exactly who it was. I hesitated for a long time and only answered on the third ring. Selina's voice rang out on the other end. Xavier, do you have to be this heartless in business? It's bad enough you won't help Alden and me, but you're also stealing our people. I frowned and asked, What do you mean? She hissed, Stop playing innocent. What kind of investment organization did you introduce? They came and demanded original shares immediately. Do they think we're stupid? And you lured all my artists over to your side. I never thought you were this kind of person. I don't understand what Alden ever saw in you. I replied calmly, Selina, perhaps Alden Jason never told you that every artist in the company was personally recruited and passionately trained by me. You know this industry. Careers are short. They can't afford to wait. And from what I hear, Cecilia's financial situation is far from stable right now. Hearing this, Selina became even more agitated. her voice rising sharply. "If he hadn't divorced and left all the money to you, the company wouldn't be in this state." I smiled. That's because he chose love. A sincere, noble love. Enough for him to abandon his wife, child, and everything. What he's receiving today is simply what he deserves. We have nothing more to talk about. If there is anything, I don't need to discuss it with you. I hung up decisively. Reflecting, I wondered about Alden Jason's health lately. It seemed my previous reminder to Selina was ignored. Perhaps she still hadn't taken him for a checkup. The next time I saw Alden Jason was at the annual Film Industry Orientation Conference organized by a major platform. Selina appeared in the crowd on his arm. Her belly was noticeably bulging. She must have been a few months pregnant, looking proud. Alden Jason saw me and reached out to greet me, but Selina pulled his hand down as soon as he lifted it. I looked at him. His complexion was indeed poor. Pale skin, purplish lips. He looked normal overall, but seemed like a scarecrow, drained of life force. During the program break, I stopped him in the refreshments area. "Have you been for a health check recently? You look very tired." Alden Jason was startled by the question, as if he didn't understand why I was bringing this up. He asked, "Did you come here just to talk about this?" I replied gently, "Work is secondary. Health is what's important." He looked at me. His voice was hoarse. "I have been tired lately, which is why my complexion is poor. Are you and the baby doing well?" I was about to answer when Selina came up from behind, deliberately interjecting, "Oh dear, old flame still smoldering?" Alden Jason quickly said, "Selina, don't say that. Xavier and I are no longer in contact." I looked at Alden Jason, remembering the sentence he once uttered, "Selina and I don't have the kind of relationship you think." At that moment, I glanced at Selina's belly, smiled softly, and said, "When you have time, pay more attention to your husband." Seeing me look at her belly, Selina proudly raised her head and said, "This child will grow up in a happy family, not like some people whose child was born into a single-parent family." As soon as she finished speaking, Alden Jason gently pulled her skirt. "Stop. Don't say any more." I looked at Selina and only felt pity. If she still didn't seriously care about Alden Jason's health, that child might never get to see his father's face. Who was truly the more pitiful one here? I didn't reply, turning back to my seat. Actually, the last time Alden Jason had a health check was almost a year ago, around the same time the company organized a general checkup for all employees. I went with him that day. It was then that I found out I was pregnant. He, however, was busy with a project and didn't go to collect the results. I was the one who picked them up for him. The report stated clearly, a large shadow in the lung, suspected mid-stage lung cancer. Immediate specialized checkups and timely treatment were required. I was pregnant at the time, trembling all over as I held the result sheet. When I called him, his phone was constantly off. I anxiously looked everywhere and finally had to rely on the private investigator. That person told me Alden Jason was having a candlelit dinner with Selina. The detective even sent me a photo. In the picture, Alden Jason was smiling radiantly. That smile was something he had reserved for me for 4 years. It turned out that for those 4 years, I was just a blurred shadow of the first love in his heart, a faint copy of Selina. That night, I left the checkup results and the company's financial report in his study. I only sent a brief message. Health report and financial year-end report are on the desk. But until he moved out, he never touched that stack of papers. In his heart, there was only Selina. Given the timeline, if he didn't seek treatment soon, Alden Jason might not live through this winter. Time flew by. My solid media company, under my management, quickly got on track. I thought I would no longer have any contact with Selina and Alden Jason, until Selina suddenly appeared at my office door. She looked somewhat haggard, but was still neatly dressed, wearing oversized clothes as if borrowed from her grandmother. As soon as she saw me, she burst into tears. "Xavier, Alden Jason is dying. My child will soon be fatherless. Tell me, why are our fates so miserable? Selina studied musical theater, but if someone told me she studied acting, I would believe it. She cried and collapsed onto the floor. I gently helped her up and guided her to the sofa, asking, "What is it that you want?" Selina spoke sincerely. "Sister Xavier, the doctor said Alden probably only has a few months left to live. I plan to take him to Switzerland to recuperate. He loves the scenery there. I just want him to be happy in his final days. As for Cecilia, we probably can't manage it anymore. Thinking that it was both your life's work, I want to hand it over to you." Hand it over to me? What game was this now? I looked at her tear-streaked face, my heart softening slightly. I asked, "Do you mean you're not coming back?" Selina nodded, then took out a stapled stack of A4 papers from her bag. "Sister Xavier, your new company is doing well. Why don't you take back Cecilia? I asked the finance department to prepare a contract to sell it back to you at cost." I immediately snapped out of my momentary soft-heartedness. So, she wanted to get rid of a bad asset in exchange for cash. Did she think I was an idiot? Still, business must be conducted logically. If the price was reasonable, I wouldn't necessarily refuse. I took the contract and flipped through it. 50 million? I repeated the number to confirm. Selina nodded and said, "Yes, 50 million. But given Cecilia's current state, scarce resources, declining reputation, I'd have to think twice about even 5 million. Yet she dared to demand 50 million. Did she think I was a foolish spender?" I offered a polite smile. 50 million? Isn't that a bit excessive? Seeing an opening, Selina immediately leaned toward me. "Sister Xavier, you said it yourself. The company was once valued at 200 to 300 million. 50 million is nothing to you. Considering you'd be buying back your life's work, it wouldn't count as a loss." Not a loss? How shameless. The artists in the company were uninspired, projects were in debt, and the finances were a mess. If I shelled out 50 million just to shoulder a pile of debt, it would be a waste of all my years in the industry. These tricks might work on Alden Jason, but she shouldn't try them on me. I slowly stood up. "I'm sorry, Selina. I can't help with this." Selina tried to maintain her composure. "If 50 million is too much, how about 40 million? I no longer had the energy to argue. "Don't even mention 40 million. I wouldn't even spend 400,000. Selina stared, asking, "Are you going to stand by and watch the company you built collapse?" I replied calmly, "The company and Alden Jason. Aren't they yours now? I invite you to leave. Otherwise, I'll call security." Hearing me mention security, Selina began to lose control of her emotions. She started screaming and cursing nonstop. "Xavier, you're so thick-skinned! You're drowning in money! You're a calculated witch! You left a pile of trash for Alden to handle, and you walked away with the money as if nothing happened." Walked away with the money? Did she forget? Alden Jason was the one who personally divided the assets. She must have known that and still dared to play innocent? I asked, my eyes cold as ice. "Did you incite him to take the company at the time?" Selina admitted it directly. "So what if I did? Blame Alden for being stupid, not knowing the true value of the company. If he hadn't said that damn company was worth 500 million, I wouldn't have bothered flying back from England." She was furious, completely unaware that Alden Jason, the man she just called stupid, was standing silently right behind her. His face was gaunt. His eyes were hollow. He just quietly watched Selina from behind. I looked at him coldly and asked, "Weren't you two true love?" Selina shrieked,
trembling all over. True love, my ass. If that foolish man hadn't kept bragging about how much the company was worth, I wouldn't have flown back from England. He's just a poor, self-deluded man. As she spoke, she stumbled and nearly fell. Alden Jason reached out to steady her. Selina turned around, startled. Alden, why are you here? How long have you been here? Alden Jason's voice was low. A long time. After a long pause, he finally spoke. Let's go. Don't embarrass yourself here anymore. From that day on, I never saw them again. The last time Alden Jason contacted me was through a phone call, using the company's internal number. A number so familiar that I didn't need to look to know who it was. I pressed the answer button, but the other side remained silent. I was about to hang up when, finally, a voice I hadn't heard in a long time spoke. Alden Jason said softly, Xavier, it's me. Xavier, I'm sorry. I replied, sorry for what? What's past is past. I've never been one to dwell on the past. If I can take it up, I can put it down. Alden Jason sighed softly and continued. Selina had an abortion and went back to England. She won't bother you anymore. I was silent for a moment, then asked, what did you really call me to say today? Alden Jason's voice was very faint on the other end, accompanied by heavy sniffing, as if he had just been crying. He said, Xavier, I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry. I had the chance to be a good husband, a good father, to do the work I loved, and to live a happy life. But I was misled, and now I have to face this outcome. I regret it so much. Xavier, I'm dying. Do you believe me? Throughout the chemotherapy, your image flashed in my mind every day. It was you who stayed up all night with me when I was sick. It was you who supported me when I worked myself to exhaustion. I interrupted him, my voice cold. Does talking about that matter now? On the other side of the phone, Alden Jason cautiously spoke. Xavier, before I die, can I see you and my son one last time? I miss you both so much. At this, his voice choked up, and he began to cry. I replied decisively, There's no need. If there's nothing else, I have to go. I have a meeting to attend. With that, I resolutely hung up. My heart felt squeezed, a vague pain throbbing within. Alden Jason and I once had good times, but I couldn't forgive the fact that in the heart of the man I loved, I was only a faint shadow of some first love. If love is not whole, then let it go. Give it back to the person he truly loves. After Alden Jason passed away, he left a letter for me, along with the remaining $50 million after liquidating Cecilia. I didn't open the letter, nor did I keep the money. I donated the entire amount and set up a charity fund in Alden Jason's name. I think that was the last kindness I could offer him.